Okay, everybody, I'm picking up where I left off. The videos only allow you to go 15 minutes at a time. This one's going to be quite a bit shorter than the other one. Okay, so for the visual analysis, I just want to emphasize here from the Duke University handout that you read, the part here that I've highlighted in yellow I think is quite important. As I read your visual analysis, your first visual analysis, I'm seeing everyone do a really good job describing the artwork. You're really telling me what is happening in terms of the formal qualities of the work, how the form is put together with regard to shapes, composition on the page, color, line. You're doing great. To dig into the next level of visual analysis, what we want to make sure we do is we start to look at the work in relation to prior movements. How does it fit into the history of art? Where, say, Picasso draws on Cezanne, how would you talk about that? How would you talk about how, in many ways, Cezanne is a proto-cubist? He sets up he sets the stage for what other artists would see and eventually run with regard to Cubism. So if you can look back to a prior movement and understand what an artist has tried to see and expand on by looking back at that movement, that would be a really great thing to include in a visual analysis. The other important thing is, or two things is, if you can, talk a little bit about the life of the artist. Is there something that helps us understand? Does Van Gogh's passionate artwork reflect the kind of volatility and passion that he felt in his life? That helps us start to interpret the work. Is there something we need to know about the world? As I've said, World War I, this period right around the war, is an enormously disruptive moment in Western culture with regard to old ideas, settled ways, and modern technology and modern thinking. How does that help us understand the work? So make sure you read this part at the end of the handout and try to, this week when you do your visual analysis, let's see if you can incorporate some of these ideas around historical precedent in art, as well as biographical material, and the social, political, or economic conditions of the period. All right, so what do you expect to do? We're asking you to go to this website from the Museum of Modern Art, and go into their German Expressionist collection, look through the artists that catch your eye. Try to look through a lot of them if you can. They're really interesting. And pick an artwork. Make sure you give us a link, or you can post a reproduction of that artwork right in the discussion. That's probably the easiest thing to keep people directly in the discussion the whole time without having to click out. And give us a sophisticated visual analysis of one of these works. I did send an email yesterday saying, please don't attach your writing into a discussion or a journal entry. You want to, I highly recommend you write in a program like Microsoft Word or Google Docs, and then cut and paste directly into Blackboard. But it's fairly hard to click out and have to open up another program when you're looking at the discussions, and some people don't have Microsoft Word, so that can be difficult. So please don't use PDFs or Word docs. All right, now, so make sure that you look at the Khan Academy Smart History visual analysis of Egon Schiele's self-portrait. And let's see, isn't it interesting how they start with a Rodin portrait, a Rodin sculpture. So talk about historical precedent, and then from there, they go back to classical art, and then from there, they talk about, well, what does the male nude look like in in this kind of modern moment. And from there, they talk about form, the kind of distortions that he uses, the way the body is, the way he uses color, how the body is, how the image is composed. So they talk explicitly and sort of in a very deep way about the technical and formal problems of the work. And then from there, they talk a little bit about, they start to get into interpretation. They say, look at this kind of debased body, right? There's something almost grotesque about it. But they say that these the reds, right, of the eyeball, the nipples, the genitals, the belly button, potentially are almost like ways into the interior life of the subject. So where the body is debased, there seems to be almost like that there's a connection between the exterior and the interior world. And Schiller was kind of a tortured guy, right? If you know about his biography, you see that he really struggled with relationships, and this body is in many ways a representation of his psychological state. So what have I done? I've looked at the historical precedent. I've looked at our ability to describe what we see in terms of the formal qualities of the artwork. I talk a little bit about the biography, and then try to sort of come at an interpretation, right? What could this mean? What's a good way to try to understand the artist's intentions, or what the artist was able to reveal about himself in the work? So that's how we do a visual analysis. All right. Well, as always, you can always email me if you have questions about week 5. Again, I really do recommend that you go back and you look at some of the slides from the earlier period. If you went back and looked at Impressionism now, I think you'll say, wow, that's sort of how pleasing and how beautiful compared to some of the work we're seeing. It helps to go back and reinforce what you looked at earlier. So if you have time, do that. And let's see. I guess that's it for my introduction to week 5. Get in touch if you'd like. Take care now.